A trade-off means choosing one thing by giving up another. The pattern shows up when a family chooses a cheaper apartment to save for school fees. The moving force is that limited money, time, and energy force priorities. The risk is that pretending there is no sacrifice usually hides the real cost. Trade-offs appear even when no money changes hands. In a daily situation, a student spends Saturdays studying instead of meeting friends. The link is that time cannot be spent twice. Once that link matters, the cost is the next best use of that same hour. Governments face trade-offs at scale. The clearest example is more spending on roads may leave less for hospitals or debt reduction. The explanation starts with public budgets divide limited resources among competing needs. The consequence is citizens feel the choice through taxes, services, and waiting times. Businesses choose between speed and quality. For example, a restaurant can serve more tables or give each table more attention. The reason is that capacity and labor are limited. That can mean pushing one side too far can damage the other. Cheap prices often carry hidden trade-offs. In real life, a very low-cost product may use weaker materials or slower service. The pressure comes from this. Cost cuts must come from somewhere. The result can be the buyer pays later through repairs, delays, or frustration. Safety and convenience can conflict. Think of airport security adds time but reduces risk. The process works because systems balance protection against ease. Over time, people complain when they see only one side of the bargain. Short-term comfort can cost long-term strength. A simple case is this. Skipping exercise saves effort today but may reduce health later. The important driver is that the trade happens across time. That is why future consequences are easy to discount because they are not felt immediately. Careers involve trade-offs. You might see it when a high-paying job may demand long hours, relocation, or stress. What matters underneath is that salary is only one part of the package. If it is ignored, choosing well means pricing the non-money costs honestly. Policy debates often hide trade-offs. One ordinary version is rent control may help some tenants while discouraging some new supply. The mechanism is that one group's relief can create another group's burden. The practical effect is serious analysis asks who benefits, who pays, and when. Trade-offs are not failures. Consider a parent choosing family time over a promotion is not necessarily losing. The hidden part is that values decide which sacrifice is acceptable. The outcome is often that a good choice can still leave something behind. Opportunity cost names the invisible side. The pattern shows up when buying a phone also means not using that money for savings or travel. The moving force is that the sacrificed alternative is part of the decision. The risk is that ignoring it makes choices look cheaper than they are. The hardest trade-offs involve good options. In a daily situation, choosing between two useful degrees or two caring partners can still hurt. The link is that loss is present even when the final choice is positive. Once that link matters, the pain does not prove the decision was wrong. Trade-offs change when circumstances change. The clearest example is a flexible job may matter more after having children. The explanation starts with priorities move with life stage, health, debt, and responsibility. The consequence is a past choice can become outdated without being foolish. Bad decisions often hide the trade-off. For example, a company promises low price, fast delivery, and perfect quality without enough staff. The reason is that unrealistic promises break when resources meet reality. That can mean someone eventually absorbs the mismatch. Negotiation is partly trade-off design. In real life, a buyer may accept a later closing date for a lower price. The pressure comes from this. Each side gives something less important to gain something more important. The result can be good deals or built by knowing what each side values differently. Trade-offs need explicit language. Think of saying yes to every project secretly says no to rest or focus. The process works because unspoken sacrifices create resentment. Over time, naming the trade-off makes the choice more honest. The best choice depends on the goal. A simple case is this. A startup may choose growth over profit while a retired couple chooses security over return. The important driver is that different goals rank costs differently. That is why there is rarely one correct trade-off for everyone. Emotions can distort trade-offs. You might see it when fear may make safety look priceless while excitement may make risk look small. What matters underneath is that feelings change the weight assigned to each side. If it is ignored, slowing down helps the hidden cost come into view. Trade-offs make decisions real. One ordinary version is without scarcity. Every option could be chosen. The mechanism is that the need to sacrifice is what gives priorities meaning. The practical effect is a mature decision accepts both the gain and the loss. Trade-offs becomes clearer when it is tested in ordinary life. Take student choosing study over friends. The point is visible in a student choosing study over friends. The choice changes because trade-offs changes the pressure around the decision. What matters is the real consequence for the people involved, not just the clean definition of trade-offs. When the example is concrete, trade-offs stops sounding abstract and starts looking like something people deal with in real conversations, bills, deadlines, and relationships. Another useful angle is startup choosing growth over profit. A startup choosing growth over profit shows how one background condition can change the outcome before anyone calls it a big event. For trade-offs, the overlooked force is the limited resource, the hour, dollar, attention, or safety margin that cannot be used twice. Once that limit is named, the decision becomes less about wanting everything and more about choosing the loss you can accept. Trade-offs only become clear when the choice is tied to something real. Time spent, money saved, options lost, or stress accepted. A shallow reading treats the final choice as obvious and ignores what had to be given up. In the case of family choosing cheaper rent farther away, the final result may look simple from the outside, but the pressure was already building before anyone noticed it. Better judgment begins by asking which option fits the goal, not which option avoids sacrifice completely. A practical example is retired couple choosing safety over higher return. The practical point is not to memorize a slogan about trade-offs. The practical point is to name the next best alternative before pretending a choice is free. That contrast explains why two careful people can choose different trade-offs without either being foolish. Most confusion around trade-offs comes from missing that hidden exchange and focusing only on the surface event. Trade-offs do not mean every choice is bad. They mean every choice uses a limited resource somewhere. Once the real sacrifice is named, the decision becomes more honest. A final example, skipping exercise for comfort today, shows why this matters before the outcome becomes expensive, stressful, or emotionally charged. The strongest takeaway is to identify the sacrifice before calling the option good. The practical point is to name the next best alternative before pretending a choice is free. Once those parts are visible, trade-offs becomes less mysterious and much easier to handle in daily life.